Meghan McCain recently weighed in on Americans and their obsession to hustle, right? Hustle culture is something that definitely grates on my nerves. And I didn't expect it to grate on Meghan McCain's nerves because, to be quite honest with you, I didn't think that she was much of a hustler, but she sees herself as someone who's worked really, really hard, feels incredibly burnt out, and is pulling away from working to focus on her family. She's decided to step down from The View. I believe this is her last week there. And so she opened up to People magazine about this and said this. Well, 36-year-old exiting co-host of The View made an emotional plea via Instagram on Sunday to stop glamorizing overworking and burnout, which she has admittedly battled. So, okay, let's put aside her workload for a second and just applaud the fact that yes, yeah, people are burnt out and we need to stop glamorizing overworking, right? First one in the office, last one out of the office. Let's give them a giant pat on the back and underpay them. No, let's stop celebrating this. This is not healthy. We need to push for, fight for actual balance in people's lives. And when I say balance, I'm not talking about working on multiple projects equally in a 24-hour period. I'm talking about balance between work and play, work and family. And what hustle culture essentially does is it pressures us to overwork, burn ourselves out. And if something doesn't go well in our careers, it creates a culture that allows for you to be the bad guy who it's your fault. It's the myth of personal responsibility. You didn't work hard enough, you didn't hustle hard enough, you didn't stay after you were off the clock longer. You should have been in the office even though you weren't getting paid for it, that kind of stuff. It's toxic and it's harmful. It's shocking that this comment is coming from Meghan McCain, who still identifies as someone who's part of the Republican Party. But what she's saying here is right. We should not glamorize overworking and burnout. So let me read you the full Instagram post. She says, we need to stop glamorizing overworking. Please, the absence of sleep, good diet, exercise, relaxation, and time with friends and family isn't something to be applauded. Too many people wear their burnout as a badge of honor, and it needs to change. Yeah, it needs to change, absolutely. So if you come across Gary Vee, and I know I'm picking on Gary Vee, he's probably the most prominent member of hustle culture. Just don't buy what he's selling. Don't drink this Kool-Aid because it's toxic, it's harmful, and you're doing something that's actually pretty counterproductive for your own health, and I would argue even your own career, because it creates a situation where you can be taken advantage of at work. With that said though, here's Gary Vee, here's what hustle culture really is. I did a lengthier segment about this on the show Weekends for Jacobin. Check that out, youtube.com/JacobinMag. But here he is, the one and only Gary Vee.
There's so many people here that are just not patient, and you're not patient. The youngsters aren't patient because they have chips on their shoulder, because they want to prove to mom and dad that they're right and they're going to do it their way. And the second they start doing their process, they've got the pressure on them. They haven't made it yet. This is all about shortcuts versus the long game. I want to build the biggest building in town ever by just building the biggest building in town, while I think most people try to tear down everybody else's building. So I think positivity and good is practical advice to building an empire. And I want to be the poster child of the person that built the biggest, baddest empire and did it by being a good dude along the way. You need to outwork the people that have money. There's 3 variables, 3 pillars: time, money, talent. Talent is hard to control. Money you don't have yet. Time is your only friend. What you do between 7 p.m. and 3 in the morning will ultimately probably be the variable of your success.
No, not interested in working from 7 p.m. to 3 in the morning. Not interested at all. Not interested in doing anything after I wrap this show. Just keeping it real. Because when you keep saying yes, when you keep giving into hustle culture, then it's just expected of you. And no one's gonna hit you up and be like, yo, Anna, you look like you're burnt out. You could use a break. Maybe don't do this or that. No, they're gonna put more on your plate. That's what hustle culture is. That is what hustle culture is. It's about squeezing as much work out of you as possible. It's about making sure, and by the way, I know I'm putting myself into this. TYT is actually very good to me. I'm not worried about it in my context. But I'm using myself as an example to say, like, if you do that, right? It's all about really squeezing as much labor out of you so employers get their money's worth, right? They get the best return on their investment. They see you as human capital. I don't know if Meghan McCain thought about it this far, but I do know that that's the underlying message for people who do speak out against hustle culture. She also says this has been me my entire adult life. Trust me, I love working and the satisfaction I get from it, but I have been the queen of burnout for a long, long time. She also added, trust me, I believe it now. I also feel my mortality and the finite amount of time a human lifespan is more than ever. Also, that there's nothing in this world guaranteed, most especially tomorrow. Okay, so that's what she's got to say. But now, here's where I basically say no cookies for Meghan McCain. Meghan McCain is incredibly fortunate and privileged. So she can step away from The View. She can step away from work for the rest of her life if she wanted to. Most Americans can't afford that. Most Americans can't afford to take a single day off to deal with an emergency. So we're talking about two very different classes here. We're talking about two very different situations here. And so while it's easy to say, hey, don't give into hustle culture, what we really need to have a discussion about is what can we do to build labor power to ensure that when there are these insane expectations for workers, they have a way of pushing back. They have protection. So if they say no, they don't have to worry about retaliation. They don't have to worry about losing their jobs. That's why what went down in Topeka, Kansas with the striking Frito-Lay workers was such an important story to focus on, because those workers were forced to do back-to-back 12-hour shifts with no days off. And they were unionized and were able to strike for 3 weeks in order to change the terms of their employment to ensure that they had better working conditions and were not forced to work back-to-back 12-hour shifts with no days off. So that's what we need to focus on, because it's one thing to say reject hustle culture. It's an entirely different thing to build a labor movement that's powerful enough to withstand the pressure and the retaliation from employers who demand to get the best return on their investment, the best return on their so-called human capital.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.